Hi everyone, Madcarver here with Schaaf Tools. Today we're going to create a stropping block of our own. We're going to cut the grooves into the block. We're going to base those grooves on the number of the chisel itself, and then we're going to apply the leather to the block that we just created. All right, let's get started. Here you can see we have the Schaaf 12-piece set, and in this set we have 3 number 7 tools. So in this set, I use 7 a lot in my work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose 7, which is the 7L 20 millimeter. It's pretty wide. Use it. And I'm also going to choose the number 7 14 millimeter. Cool. But another big one here that I use is a number 5 20 millimeter. Now, what's great about these 20 millimeter ones is because corner to corner is 20 millimeters. The arc is a number 5. Now, if I have a smaller, like say a 6 millimeter number 5, I can use it in the same stropping place that I'm going to make on the block. So that's great. So having a 20 and creating it with a 20 will allow me to use it with any number below it. So that's great. But for these, for this set, I'm going to use these 3 tools. So you can see here the Schaaf 7-piece set. But before I go on too much further, I'm just going to say that I added a 4th tool from the 12-piece set, which is the number 12 6 millimeter V parting tool. It's a good one to have on a stropping block, so we're going to add that in. For the 7-piece set, the only tool that I'm going to add in on this one is the number 3 20 millimeter. I use a lot of 3s for clouds, water, sky, lots of that stuff. So with all of the 3s that are in the sets that I have, this will come in handy having this on a stropping block. So we're going to add that in. Here is the Schaaf 4-piece set, which contains only specialty tools, which are the fishtail gouges. So there's a 7F 14 millimeter, there's a 7F 6, there's a 5F 14, and then there's a 3 6 millimeter. So of all these tools, I already have them, at least their number, in the tools that I'm going to use to create the strop. So over here I have the 3 20 millimeter, which covers a 12, which is a V parting tool. I have a number 5 at 20, a number 7 at 14, and then I have the long bent, which is the 7L, and it's at 20. So I have everything I need to cover the tools that would be used here on the stropping block. So let's get to it. This is the block we're going to use to create our stropping block. We're going to cut into the surface with our numbered chisels, creating grooves that match that number. That number corresponds with the arc, or rather the sweep, on the end of the chisel, the cutting edge. We're going to cut deep enough to get leather glued in there so that we can use it to strop our tools. Let's start with our first tool, which is going to be a number 7 14 millimeter. We're just going to keep cutting straight across until we have a good groove in there, and we'll see where we're at. I'm going to continue doing that. I'll be right back with you. Okay, here you can see that I've created the groove that fits this tool, which is a 7 14 millimeter. So this will be good for tools that are number 7, in addition to something that's 14 millimeters or below. And that will be very helpful. I'll sand this down to get it nice and clean before I put leather in there. All right, one tool down. Let's go to the next one. We're going to this time check and see this one. which is a number 12 6mm. Let's work with this one. This is a good one because everybody uses the V parting tool and it needs to be sharpened more often than we'd like. All right, let's start with that. Move a slight distance away from there. It did take a lot more space than I originally thought, so let's leave extra room. Okay, there we go for tool number 12, 6mm. All right, so let's go on to one. We have a number 3, 20mm. Move on over to about here and start that. Uh-oh, got a bit of a knot here we're gonna have to get through. Okay, done with this one. I had to widen the trough a bit to get it to fit the whole way. Number 3, 20mm. Okay, now let's go to the number 5, 20mm, and see how that one works. Okay, there we go. Tool number 5, 20mm. That one's finished. And lastly, we'll work on the 7L, which is a 7 long bent, 20mm. Okay, final tool, 7L 20mm. That's a long bent. Remember the tool. All right. So now at this point, I'll sand everything down, get them all super clean in there and uniformly on the same level everywhere. I might take down some of those edges here, and then at that point, I'll put in a thin piece of leather through each of these and get it all set. And then I'll show you that as well. And then we'll glue and we'll be done. Okay, there we go. Block has been sanded. Now what's left is to apply the leather. So I have some leather here and I cut it to the approximate size of the block. When you put the leather on the block, you'll have to account for these deeper areas. So we're going to just put our tools in there. Make sure that they're down all the way. Okay, so we know that the depths that we have cut into the stropping block work, and the leather that we have is enough to cover it. So at this point, we're going to glue the leather in, but I want to make note of one thing. There are differing opinions of how to apply the leather to the block. Some people like to have the rougher side of the leather up, and some people like to have the smoother side of the leather up. I'm one of the former persons. I like to have the rougher side of the leather touching my tools when I strop, So that's how I'm going to glue it. So I'll glue this side, or rather I'll glue the block and place the leather in like so. Okay, here we go. Completely finished. At this point we have created the block, put in 5 separate tools. First one being a 7 at 14 millimeter, number 12 V parting tool 6 millimeter, a number 5 20 millimeter, a number 3 20 millimeter, and a number 7 long bent 20 millimeter. So it's been glued in, it's completely fastened in there, and we can check out a tool. Here's our 7 started over here, and it works great. So you guys can see better. It fits in there just great, and you just pull on it. It's going to be up to you whether you would like to create a block that's larger, or rather longer, so you can get more play with the tool, or if you want to just keep it short like this so it's easy to move around. Completely up to you. But it seems to be working just fine. And it really took very little effort to create. So there you go, your own stropping block. Good luck.